Chapter 5. To avoid criticism. Do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. Albert Hubbard. Resourceful. Breathe and dig deeper during crises. You'll be amazed how much more you have to rely on. Resourcefulness, probably the most underrated capability a person can have. Join me on a 4-hour flight with my then 8-week-old baby boy. We had just visited with family on a reunion trip, planned 4 years previously. I include that fact because you cannot line up many parents or single parents who want to take a trip so soon into parenthood, and I wasn't one of them either. When you collect over 100 family members from 5 continents into one place for a few weeks, there is a whole lot of traveling and moving around, and resourcefulness is the understatement of the essential requirements on a good day. Anyway, I was about to check in for the flight, traveling alone, and needed to go through soon so I could settle and feed my already wanting son when the lady tells me, "Sorry, you're not booked on this flight." And after much debate, "Your travel agent must have forgotten to put your flight numbers through. We'll put you on standby in case anyone cancels." Oh, really? How nice. Tell that to the little voice in my head that's screaming, "Okay, nobody panic, I'll tell you when to panic." Eventually, microseconds away from outright panic, I'm booked onto the flight. Boarding has almost concluded, and I'm a short 15-minute walk, I'm told, from the boarding gate. In my inimitable wisdom, I decided to short feed my son and finish on the flight. Unfortunately, he disagreed with my theory and screamed hysterically from the moment I stopped feeding him, right through a 5 or so minute sprint to the gate, a 2-minute walk to the second last row of the flight, and until we were about to land. Great set of lungs, I was so proud. Especially when everyone around me either stopped short of spitting at me or offered mothering advice, or even took my son from my arms and said, "I'll handle this," shortly before returning him. Do you think resourcefulness was required? Every last bit I never knew I had. That's what I drew on. Everything. I tried feeding. "Too late," she cried. Bouncing. I almost heard my son say, "One more bounce and you're history, lady." Singing to him. No ovations, I'm afraid. Nappy changing in a cramped toilet. A book in itself, Mastery of Small Spaces. Pretending I didn't notice the seemingly global disturbance was emanating from my arms. Difficult one. Someone asked if I planned to do anything about him wrecking the silence, and I wanted to ask, what silence? Smiling at the grimaces. Not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes people want you to agree that your child is their problem. Pretending it was completely normal. He was 8 weeks old. He thought he was part of a medical experiment on food deprivation. Hysteria was appropriate, I felt. Praying. A whole bunch. Didn't get an answer just then. You name it. The most important thing I felt I did throughout that flight is use all my internal resources to let him know he was held, he was safe, he was not embarrassing me, I was not angry with him, I loved him, and he was the world to me, and if this was his personal infantile crisis, so be it. I'd hold him and we'd both live through it, and we did. I kept reminding myself, soon, with abundant relief, all these strangers will move on, and this horrifically noisy flight will become an unpleasant blur for them, and soon after that, a memory they'll reflect upon to empathize with others who suffered the fate of a screaming child on board. But for me, it was essential that my son only remembered being loved by me, not abandoned by me, and so importantly felt safe to be in crisis with me. I definitely would have preferred an alternative. I'll raise you 2 lots of a peaceful flight to 1 lot of hysteria any day, and I certainly did everything I knew how to do to attempt to placate him. But he needed to experience that no stranger's opinion is more important than how I love him and how he is valued by me, on a flight, while shopping, wherever. when I have tucked him into his Bob the Builder bed set at bedtime in his Lion King Disney decorated room, I have looked into his eyes before he went to sleep, and he looked into mine, and last I checked, there weren't 50 strangers in the room to share that moment with. I hope I'm making the sense I'm attempting to here. We need all the inner resourcefulness we can pack into the backpack to always do our best for our children first. At the end of the flight, a woman passed me and said, "I commend your efforts with your baby. You're incredibly resourceful." Yep, that's me. Incredibly resourceful. Thank you very much. Now where do I go to collapse? If you can remember a crisis moment you're proud of handling in the best interest of your child and not your ego, or if not, perhaps you'll experience one you'll share over here. They're real back patters to reflect on from time to time, and I encourage you to embrace the space to remind yourself of your resourcefulness and your courage. Deep breath now. On we go.